I'm Luis Scott, managing partner of Bader Scott Injury Lawyers, one of the fastest growing law firms in the country, and I'm also the co-founder of 8-Figure Firm Consulting. I've successfully built multiple companies by focusing on leadership, operations, and culture. Using these principles, my companies have generated close to $100 million in revenue. But before any of this success, I started my legal career as a receptionist, and I worked my way up to becoming managing partner. In each episode of this podcast, I sit down with leaders and entrepreneurs who have had the guts to step out on their own and the courage to face adversity. They share with us their tips for achievement, the challenges they have faced, and the glory of success. I welcome you to the Guts and Glory Show. All right, hey guys, welcome to the Guts and Glory Show. I'm excited to have our guest speaker today, or a guest on the show, Klyn Elsbury. She's got an amazing story. She's going to inspire you. I believe she's going to wow you today with her story. And also, we're going to be talking about sales, which I love. And if you're a business owner, you should love also. And she has a very unique perspective on the sales process and how to help people develop a sales funnel that works for them instead of them constantly chasing after the business. And so if you want to grow your business, you really want to tune in to this episode. But before we get started, as you know, this podcast has been brought to you by 8-Figure Firm Consulting, and we help lawyers turn their law firm into law businesses. So if you need help with your law firm and growing your law firm, go to 8figurefirm.com. So I'm so excited to introduce you, Klyn, because you have an amazing story. And if people love this podcast, they should also check you out on YouTube, because you have a great speech about your story. But I want to read a couple things, because I told you before we got on the show that I had Woman Crush Wednesday with all of your achievements. It's absolutely incredible. Over 60,000 people follow you online through podcasts, newsletters, and videos. 150 appearances on publication. You have an international best-selling book called I Am: The Untold Story. You have been on speaking stages, earning 7 figures, doing speaking and sales coaching and training. And you did all of this, if I got it correctly, by the time you were in your early 30s. I was still trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life in my early 30s. So it's absolutely inspiring. But there is a backstory to all of this, which makes your story even more inspiring. And it's your battle with cystic fibrosis, I believe, is what you have had. And you had in there, in 1 year, you spent almost half the year in the hospital, but you didn't make excuses. And that is what is truly, truly inspiring to me. So I want to say welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to correct 2 teeny tiny little things.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh, this will be fun though. Watch. It's 2 books. And
Sorry.
don't worry, I'm still figuring it out. So if you're listening to that and you're like, wow, I was not doing that in my 30s. A lot of this was dumb luck.
Sure.
And if I'm being real with all of you, I'm always secretly looking for the more adulty adults in the room.
Right.
So if you're going through the vibes right now, like, man, I'm behind, we all feel it. Don't worry.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm
the thing
so
is
excited to be here with you.
thank you for being here. And the thing is to point out something that you said. It doesn't really matter where you get to in life. You always can find someone who's ahead of you, and you can always feel behind. So it's really about like just sticking to your journey, because we all have a different journey. But, I was really intrigued because you've made no excuses about your life and your past. And I don't know how much, that has affected your career, but I know people who have had that condition as well, who it affects them greatly. And I don't know if that's, the full extent to your story, but I would love people to know more about kind of your past and what led you into sales, what led you to speaking, and how you came, to write this international bestseller.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I detail. So the first book is I Am, and that's, the health chronicles, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second book is a tactical way to leverage neuroscience to get you unstuck. And that's more the sales side of the book. So it's behind me, over my shoulder. You see a book with a trophy near a mic. And the first, really 2 chapters are how I fell in love with sales inside the hospitals. For those of you who are listening who do not know, I'll give you a little context. Cystic fibrosis is a genetic condition, meaning I was born with it. I have the most common mutation. which, it roughly affects, I think there's 70,000 people in the world with cystic fibrosis. It's an incredibly rare disease. And I have the most common mutation, which I believe is responsible for 80% of that 70,000.
Wow.
I was diagnosed right when I was born, and it's a condition that fills your lungs with a thick, sticky mucus that you can't really cough out, that gets then prone to infections. So if you think about the body, any mucosal membrane, hint, all of them, have issues when you have this condition, and that mucus, because you can't cough it up or get it out, it creates basically internal havoc. When I was born, the life expectancy, I believe, was 14 years old. I think if you're born today, you can expect to live to be about 25 years old. And I've spent 67 different hospitalizations in my 33 years on this planet. And they ranged in length from 2 nights to as long as 6 months. So what you were referring to, and I am, the first book, there was 1 year, a couple years ago in my late 20s, where I spent 154 days in the hospital, and they're not all consistent. So it's not like I can plan. It's like, we're hanging out, we're having a good time. And then the next day something happened and I'm in the hospital, and we don't know when I leave, if I leave. And so that was kind of the context of not only my childhood, but my adult life as well. And so I think that's what creates, and I'm sure we'll get into it, I think that's what creates a little bit of that unique perspective. Is I was not raised traditionally. I was literally raised by my doctors and nurses, and then my family on the weekends during the hospitalizations. And of course, my mom would visit most every day, but like family time was weekends. My parents essentially became the nurses and the doctors during the week. So we'll get into some interesting perspective shifts.
What's amazing is, and it's already shining through here on the recording for those of you who are watching this podcast, but it's your personality. Like you have like this, you have a very bubbly personality, like a love for life, which is amazing, because most people who have a condition where the life expectancy is 25 probably don't feel as happy, right? And it's like you just have a good, I get sick a little bit and I'm like, oh, God, what's gonna happen to me, and so it's actually inspiring to have that sense of positivity that you have, and that really comes through when someone gets to meet you. Where do you think that comes from? Where does that kind of positive attitude come from?
So funny you say that, because I don't think I'm positive. It's a debate in our household too, because my fiance will say the same thing. Like if you ask him, oh, why did you fall in love with Kayla? And he'll be like, she was just always happy. Yeah. And I'm like, have you met me though? Like,
right.
But no, I mean, really, like I remember, first hospital story coming at you. Right. I remember, I talk about it in the speech that you watched online, but I remember being really upset about prom, and I didn't get to go to prom. I was, get this, in the hospital. Yeah. And all the girls got to pick out their prom dresses. And this is when, MySpace was all the rage. So I got to see, first of all, I was nobody's top 5 friend. I was kind of a loser.
Right.
And in addition to that, like, it's weird to be so popular now, right? So I was nobody's top 5 friend, and everyone was posting their MySpace prom dress photos. And I just remembered crying because the nurse came in, and my option that day wasn't, do I want an A-line or a silhouette frame? Like, my option was, when do I want my anti-nausea meds? And like, I had the IVs going through my veins, and like, I was just like a wreck, and I had like legit pity party. And my mom was there, and she was like, okay, you earned this pity party. It's completely understandable, but you got half hour. And she literally set a timer, and then half hour later came into my room, asked me how I was doing. I was still being a teenager. And she put me in my wheelchair, and she took me up to the burn unit. And I'll tell you what, you learn gratitude when you surround yourself with people who have more courage than you do, especially when you're in that moment. So a teenager not getting to go to prom, missing out on everything, and then seeing the women who lost most of their bodies to fire, had a really big impact on me. And that's just one of hundreds of hospital stories where it was really my mom who taught me that. I remembered there was a time when I loved to dance. Dancing's it's a big passion of mine. And I wanted to become a professional belly dancer and a Zumba instructor.
Okay.
I actually pulled both off.
All right.
But we would do it in the hospital. We'd have all the nurses on their breaks come into the room and we'd be playing YouTube dance instruction videos. And we turned my hospital room into like an actual party. I don't think I've ever shared this on a show. So, and we turned my hospital room into literally like a Zumba belly dance party. And all the nurses on their shifts would bring in food and we just learn how to dance together. So it was like little things like that. There's joy in every moment if we just take a step back and look for it. I think that's one of the lessons that stuck with me.
Yeah, I think you said something, you said a word, gratitude. And as I've gotten older, and I don't consider myself old, I'm in my 30s still, my late 30s, but I'm still in my 30s. But I have realized how much gratitude really plays a part in your mental health and in your ability to really persevere in bad times. And there are a lot of people out there, especially like young entrepreneurs who are getting started, who have a hard time being thankful when they're not as successful as they want to be. Like, how do you actually be more thankful? How do you become more grateful? Like, what is the skill set for that?
So I have, whatever, here we go. An online course dedicated to helping people grow their social media, right?
Okay.
It was one of my first loves for sales as I started piecing it together. And really, when you're in the hospital, content creation becomes your jam, right? You study and you do content creation. You can't leave that room. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and it was interesting because one of the ladies who had joined Shark School, she, said, "Oh, I've got all these posts and these ideas, but like only 3 people like them."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I go back and I was like, "And you didn't thank them or interact with your audience?" And she was like, "It's only 3 people." And I was like, regardless if you're spiritual or not, I'm not taking it completely in this direction, but if you can't be grateful for the 3 people who are supporting you now, you don't deserve 60,000. You don't deserve the income. You don't deserve, like, I'm very big in this. So you hit me hard right there, because if you're not grateful for what you have when you don't have anything, you will never be grateful for what you have when you have everything, because you won't even notice you have it.
Yeah.
And gratitude is such a big part of my life. That if somebody, like even on my sales teams, right? If I give a rep a really high quality lead and they're not grateful, or they turn around and they complain about one part of that lead, you think I'm gonna give them another high quality one? No, I'm gonna find that person who's hungry and understands that you get more in life with honey than you do with salt. And it's a big component of me. And so if you're looking there right now, like, I want to grow, I don't know what's happening in my business. Are you grateful for what you currently have? And do the people who work with you know that?
Wow.
Because that's your missing link.
That is huge. I mean, that, like, wow. I'm not going to say you were speaking to me. I'm not going to say you were speaking to me, but you may have been speaking to me, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is so true. That is so true. I think that what happens with gratitude is that we sometimes are always thinking about the next thing, the next big thing, and we're not really enjoying what we have today. And so it's hard to be thankful for today when all we're thinking about is what's next. And
but who cares what's next?
we can't control what's next. That's the thing. And it's we just have to continuously be, thankful for what we have today. So that's a very, very awesome perspective. Now, you took this because you said you have a lot of hospital stories. Eventually these stories, or there was something, got you on stage. And I've told you before, like, you live my dream job, which is speaking. That's like what I aspire to be one day. You're speaking at conferences all over the country and the world. How did you get on stage? Like, what was the transition point for you?
I know that your listeners want to hear this metamorphosis butterfly, from a cocoon story.
Right.
But in the reality, I was drinking martinis on the beach with the right person at the right time.
Wow.
And so I pick on that in one hand, right? Because don't all great business relationships just come from a casual conversation? And that's where it started. Is I was very fortunate in that the guy who was in charge of a major conference had a couple dirty martinis, and I was talking to him about my story, and he was like, "Hey, you want to speak at our conference?" And it was just tongue in cheek, and I was like, "Yeah, I like what's a conference?" Like, I was that dumb.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah, it's kind of a big deal. You might want to practice for this one. And I was like, okay. And come to find out, it was Alchemy, which is one of the major regional conferences for the Entrepreneurs Organization. And thank God I practiced. Grateful for that little casual conversation on a beach. And I wound up being the highest rated speaker, including, Jocko Willink was there, Shep Gordon was there. There were a lot of major stars there, and Lance Armstrong, and I beat them all out. I was the highest rated. And so I got signed to 2 bureaus that day. And I always joke, it's easy to be a one-hit wonder. It's easy to get that sale on a Friday and be like, yeah, look how great I am, or at the end of the month. Right. It's easy to be a one-hit wonder. Where the difficulty came in is in the consistency. And that, you even take it into salespeople, right? Like, if you can't consistently throw the numbers on the board, you're not a salesperson, you're an order taker. And for me, it came from, I did a keynote for free because I didn't know what the conference was. Now I'm like, I could have got 5 figures for that one. And then literally everybody, I was grateful for everybody who stood in line to get a hug. I was grateful for every single person who bought a book. And, even to this day, if you buy a book on my website, I physically autograph it and go to the post office for you. And then like the entire time and it's something people tell me to outsource it, but I can't, because there's something about like seeing a name, let's say, let's pick on Seth, because I met him this week, right? So let's just say Seth gets a book. I write Seth on that page, and I literally just in my moments like pray over or guide or send love to Seth. And it's a very emotional moment for me to put my book in the mail. And sometimes it's annoying. There's like 100 copies I'm sending out. Yeah. And I want to be like, I do not have time for this. And then there's times where I just like, Seth bought the book and that's it for the week.
Right.
But it's like that personal moment I have with everyone. And I think that's where the consistency of my speaking brand came, is because, when you work with me, you get customization and personalization and that one-on-one attention that, if I'm gonna get super emotional, I think we're all starving for, especially right now. Yeah. And so that's how I did it consistently, is I never took a single conversation with people for granted. And if they said that they ever book speakers or stories, like, I never led like, hey, I'm a speaker, you should book me for your event. I lead with like, tell me all about who you are, what your life is like, and let's share a story and see if these stories can do anything for others. And that's what helped the consistency of that success, if that's helpful for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I just took from that story is that the key to getting on stage is drinking martinis and getting away from my margaritas. Like, that's why I have been failing,
How did you not know this? I'm disappointed in you.
I wrote it down. Don't worry about it. So I have it. No, but the thing is that I probably should have started this show with a disclaimer that if you like making excuses, don't listen to this show. But yeah, it's very powerful to hear someone who's on the other side of like finding that person that changed their life, right? Because that person, in a sense, helped change your life by getting you on that stage, and then you became this next thing and the next thing. And I think people don't appreciate the value of connection. They want to be known, but they don't want to connect. And connection is more important than being known. And how do we connect? Especially, you have all these pandemics. You have all these shutdowns. People now don't want to associate closely as much as they used to. I know people are craving it. There's social media that has us kind of separated. How do people connect nowadays? Like, what's the strategy for that connection point?
I feel in some ways the pandemic made me closer to others and got rid of the crap that was weighing me down. Because it was a year of intentional focus. Like, you can only hang out with people in your bubble. You better like them. And, with your dreams of being a speaker, I bet if you look at your network, that person who can change your life is already there. You just haven't noticed them or connected with them. And not you per se. It's not like you haven't done this.
Right.
But it's more like there's just such a beauty to that. And I think connection, slow down. Like, have a conversation, have a meal, ask the hard questions. So there was this book I read, and I forget the title, it's evading me, but 2 women go to dinner, and I'm gonna pick on women versus men, knowing that, it's not necessarily a woman versus man thing. So big picture here, guys and ladies. So women go to dinner, and by the time, and you know, your wife will probably agree to this story. If you put your wife and I on a podcast, I know every detail about your marriage, her life, her upbringing, what it's like
Right.
at home, where she struggles, where she's proud of, how she's a
Mm-hmm.
great woman. I go to a podcast with a guy, and a podcast is a little different because this is a very intentional moment, but I go to dinner
Right.
with you per se. I leave knowing about your business, your favorite sports teams. Like, I don't know you at the end of the
Mm.
dinner because it's uncomfortable to ask those questions.
Right.
And women, we just instinctually know how to get it. Like, my fiance's friend was having a really difficult night, or difficult like month at home or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they went out to a game, and I was like, oh, how are they doing with the kid? How are they doing with this? I don't know. How do you sit with somebody for 5 hours and not know anything about them? Well,
Right.
guys, we don't do that. Well, that's where
Yeah.
connection comes from. Like, you just
Mm-hmm.
had 5 hours to do that. And so I think that's just, you know, it's okay to slow down and ask the tough questions, from a place of not judging and just being like, I want to connect with you. I think if we all led with, we've got 45 minutes for a show, I want to connect with you, our lives would be a lot different. I
Yeah.
think it's beautiful. I do.
I do believe that, and this may be just overgeneralization, but I do think, at least from my experience, that connecting with other men is very challenging because, you know, I post something on Instagram, I'll get likes, but nobody's giving me fire emojis for my great posed picture. You know, my wife posts something on Instagram, she gets fire, you look amazing, you look great. I'm like, where's all my love? Like, I don't get anybody giving me any kind of love like that, you know? She gets all the
Yeah.
love. So it's a little bit more challenging from a relationship standpoint. And I think it's because we don't want to be vulnerable. When I say we, probably everybody to some degree. And you know, for you, you mentioned before we got on the show that you're kind of an open book and you're transparent. Like, where does transparency and vulnerability play a part in your success? Is it like a 50%, 80%? Like, because I believe it's a high part for me. Where do you see it on in terms of your success?
Yeah, so two things. The reason she's getting all those fire emojis is she probably gives them more.
Sure, true,
You get what you
true.
give in life, right? So if you're
Yeah,
given the love, you're going to get a lot more of it.
yeah.
At least that's my experience. But where does the transparency and how much of it do I lead with? 100%.
Hmm.
Like, there's really nothing off limits if I trust the intention of the other person,
Mm,
right? And that's where it's a big thing. Like, I'm not just going to go around as an open book if I secretly think you're
mm,
shady, right? But I think as business owners, as anyone in an entrepreneurial sales type role, if you're not leading with transparency consistently, there's a bigger problem. And the
mm,
the reason people don't want to be transparent is because it's vulnerable. But I think also in today's climate and landscape, we're so over walking on eggshells to say anything we need to say
hmm.
that it's welcomed. So in a couple interviews, we do a lot of sales recruiting, for some of the companies. And in one of the interviews, I asked, you know, what do you like about your managers, or what don't you like? And the candidate was like, I like straight shooters.
Hmm.
Well, the person interviewing him was not a straight shooter. And so you can see
Right.
now, but I get it a lot more than I thought. So I think people welcome,
Hmm.
open, honest, transparent dialogue. And yeah, I don't know if
But
I
the
answered
thing,
that correctly for you.
but no, I mean, there's no correct answer. It's your answer, and the thing, one of the things that I've struggled with is in the networking environment, is I always feel like it's so superficial, and I've always, and so like I asked myself the question, do I really want to connect with people who are just being superficial? I'll give you an example. I went to this networking event and I met this group of people and everything was great. Like everything was great. The relationship was great. I was like, wow, I really connected with that person. And then come to find out, they're just trying to sell me something. And it was like they were only connecting for the sale. And then when we didn't get the sale, when they didn't get the sale, like I never heard from them again. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh my gosh, we could have been best friends. Like, and it's just like so then it makes me not want to connect. So what
yeah.
would be what's the solution? Like, what do you do in that scenario? Do you just keep connecting and hope you find the right people or
Well, so let's take it a couple of different angles on that. I agree with you. 99% of networking events I leave early, because it just turns into, do you have a card? I'd like to connect with you. And I'm like, I'm not connecting with you, right?
Mhm.
You asked earlier where my success comes from. So it literally just comes from, cool, we're not working together today, but I genuinely like you. You want to can we hang out again? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
like I was very blessed to chat with your team, and I don't care. Like, it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't change my life, but what does is getting to have frequent conversations with you and having this
Hmm.
podcast scheduled. And it's like, regardless of whatever happens, like, I jokingly call them my ride or die club. And it's a
Yeah.
secret club of people that don't know that they're in it.
Right.
So cat's out of the bag.
Right.
So you're one of the names on my ride or die. And I encourage every single one of you right now listening, get out a sheet of paper and a pen or use your phone, whatever you got to do, and write down 52 names of people you do not want to lose contact with.
Right.
And then hint, there's 52 weeks in a year. They don't need to know that they're going to pop up automatically on your CRM and you're just going to send them a text message or like a GIF or GIF, just something like, hey, have a great day. I was thinking about you, or this really reminded me of you, or that time we spent together on this podcast, or, hey, what's coming up on your holidays? Like, it's okay to intentionally pick your tribe and follow up with them until they stop responding to you. That's the game. The game isn't what you sell. The game is how deep of an emotional connection can you have with the people around you every single day.
Right.
And yeah,
Yeah.
at
I
least
mean,
that's what I do. I call it
the
my
thing
hit
is
deck.
that I love that, because the thing is that we're busy. Everybody's busy. And what you're talking about is like automating connection, but with intentionality. Like, you're automating connection, but you do have the intention of wanting to build a relationship. And I think that that's deeper than just this superficial, hey, are you ready to buy now? Are you ready to buy now? Are you ready to buy now? And that's what drives me crazy. That's the reason I love LinkedIn, but I hate LinkedIn. Like, as soon as I connect with somebody, I'm going to get their email. Hey, by the way, want to sell you something. It's like, dude, I've never even met you before. Like, what? I don't even know who you are. Like, let's
date me first. Yeah, I
yes,
get
exactly. So
it.
it's insane. Now, that's a perfect segue into sales. Okay. Talk to me about sales. Lawyers in particular, that's the majority of the people that listen to this show, but entrepreneurs too struggle with this. But lawyers in particular are horrible at sales. Tell us the secret. What is the secret to sale?
That's just, to me, that just the fact you say that cracks me up. One of my best friends is an attorney. Um, and like, he can negotiate, but then he's like, oh, I suck at sales. I'm like, dude, no, that's literally your profession, y'all. Like, let me
Right.
break this down for you.
Should be, yeah.
You are selling an entire room of why your theory is correct for your client. Now, substitute your client for a product like a widget, Gel Pens International. You're essentially negotiating with an entire room about why your gel pen is better. Like, it is the same thing. So when lawyers say they're bad at sales, I'm like, well, are you bad at your job? Because like, you don't get both. Like, it's the same freaking thing. So it's interesting. So sorry, but that was my little rant. And I totally forgot your question, if we're being transparent and vulnerable.
Well, no, thank you for your transparency and your vulnerability. But you are right. But the thing is that some of the lawyers that are bad at sales are also bad lawyers. So that's actually goes hand in hand. But let me just say the question I want you to answer for our listeners is, what's the secret sauce to sales? Give us the 3 to 9 point. We can't remember more than that. So like 3 to 9 point secret sauce to selling legal services to someone. If you're a lawyer and you want to take your business to the next level, you need 10 more clients. What are we doing?
I mean, I could flip it back to you and see what my secret sauce was, but I'll give everybody the one statement. I do it every keynote that comes in, every major book order that comes in, anytime somebody wants me to work with their leadership team, any sales consulting. This is my one statement. You can tailor it for you and your organization, and it changes the game should everything else go right. But here's my kryptonite for you. Okay. So let's just say hypothetically, I'm selling you sales training, right? So I'm selling you sales training, and I would just simply say, here's the deal. I'm asking you roughly 3 to 5 questions. I'm going to figure out what it is that you're missing in the company and what you're proud of. There's probably going to be some other questions in there as well. And then from there, I'm going to share what I do. If it's not a fit for you and I don't get a good vibe on it, that's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to refer you to someone I know who will be a better fit, because I don't want to waste your time or mine. And I know that I'm not the solution for every single person out there, but at least let me hear your story. And if I can get you a better connection than me, I'm happy to do that. And we part as friends. I'm pretty sure I actually said that to you.
You said that word for word.
Now
I'm thinking that you had that scripted because you said that word for word almost.
I teach that to every major company. I create their value proposition, and I teach that to every salesperson in every major company. So it comes off as your consultant. It's a consultative, educational-based marketing approach to sales and selling philosophy. And think of it, even in the context of law, right? If I get injured, and I'm not a lawyer, so this is not going to be a correct statement, but if I get injured and I need to find an injury attorney, for example, I'm going to Google. I don't know what I'm looking at. Half the words I don't understand. And I'm going to get on the phone with a member of your team. And I'm just saying, listen, I'm really hurt. I need help. I need this money. Medical bills are piling up. I need you. And you come at me and you say, Kaylin, I might be a good fit for you, but I'm not quite sure. Let me find out more about your situation. And if I'm not, I'll personally find somebody who is. The amount of buy-in that will come from that customer, knowing that they felt heard, connected with, and that you may not be their perfect solution, it lowers their cognitive bias, allowing you to actually pitch and sell them, should it be appropriate. But it also makes it come at it like you're standing by their side, not standing at them.
Oh my
and
gosh.
You're figuring out a solution together.
I mean, what you just said, like the illustration, essentially what's taking place in this transaction is the consumer unknowingly believes that now you are working with them, even though you still have the solution. But just in case, if I don't have the solution, I'll get you the right person. But I know I have the solution. But just in case, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. You know,
that's why I love working with these companies, because you can be a well-intentioned entrepreneur with a horrible sales department and not know how you're going to fix it. And then you read every single sales book and you attend the seminars and the podcast and you try all these strategies, but you're forgetting the framework behind why these strategies may or may not work. And so I have a neuroscience background. And so we took that background and we applied it to these individual departments where everything else in the company is right, but this system is broken. And we remind them of what that system is. And it's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful to see the transformation.
Yeah. I mean, that just kind of blew my mind right now, just thinking about it. Cause the word that I was going to say when you said, what is it that sold me on you or whatever, was the word likability. And I think that it came from that approach. As soon as you have that approach, you become more likable. And we're not going to do business with somebody who's a sleazy salesperson. We're just not.
Why? We're sophisticated buyers. Those days are over. And if you're still trying it, day one, anytime I hire somebody new, I'm like, you're not a salesperson, you're an educator. And if you can't make that transition, I can't have you on my team. And it's just very clear. And so a lot of what we have to do is unlearn what happened. So there's a story, Lululemon, if you read the Chip Wilson Lululemon story, riveting read. And he talks about how women that he was targeting for his $128 low black stretchy pants, when we go out of a dressing room, we don't want to hear how we look good. I'm a financially responsible, attractive female. I know when pants look good on me. I don't need a $10 an hour employee telling me this. But then we go into the sales world and we automatically assume we need to tell our buyers how great they are. They're sophisticated enough to know their stuff's broken. So that's when you come across as sleazy or salesy, because you're treating them like they shouldn't and don't know better. And they do, at least for the context of our conversations. Sure, if you're going into a cheap mall store, maybe you do need that confidence. But when you're dealing with educated people and not educated by school, but educated by life, they don't need artificial features and benefits conversations. And the reason people love our company is because they're sophisticated enough. Leave them alone. They can make a decision. Just guide them to the decision that makes sense.
What should the salesperson say coming out of Lululemon? What should they be saying?
So sales 101, loop it back to them. So if I'm a salesperson and somebody's coming out of Lululemon, I'd just say, hey, do you like how that looks on you? Do you have any questions about the technology behind this piece? You may not know this, but there's that reflective little arch on the back, their logo. that's actually an A for what they were originally going to name the company. And the reason it's reflective is because I'm assuming, are you a runner? Oh, okay. No, you trail run. Got it. Well, they invented this reflection because as you run on the trail, should a biker be coming behind you, they actually can alert it. So in case you're wearing the black pants at night, you actually have a reflective coating. So these pants actually keep you safer than some of the other ones.
Wow. Yeah. I mean,
I don't know that per se, but that's what I would do if I was selling little black stretchy pants in the mall, is taking them back to the educational value. And notice there's no, oh, you look great. Can I tell you about this feature of these pants? No.
Right.
Stop it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is that if the person comes out and you ask them, how do you feel? How do you feel that you look in it? How do you look? And they say, I think I like it. Then you can just affirm them and say, I agree. It looks great on you. And now I think you've developed more of a connection with the person than just leading off of.
So we call that ledge. There was a glitch. I didn't mean to cut you off, but one of the things that I love is ledge statements. So when the buyer is giving you any sign, I hope I can't see you, but maybe you can see me. So hopefully this is valuable for you. Okay. So one of the things we also teach is something called a ledge statement, and it was popularized by Jeb Blunt. Speaking of which, if any of your listeners know him, I would love an introduction selfishly. Huge fan. And, it's interesting. So if they come out and you go, oh, what do you think about yourself in these pants? They're like, I like it. It'd be like, yeah, many of our customers love that feature. I'm not complimenting them. Many of our customers love the way these pants look on them as well. And can I tell you about this logo in the back? And so you're adding that value. You're taking what they say, you're using herd mentality, and then you're adding in a technical educational feature.
Wow.
I hope this is good. I don't know.
Yeah, that's very good. I mean, there is a method to the madness of sales for sure. And I think that some of us are a little bit more skilled at it. I think we're just kind of maybe have that skill. We don't even know why we're doing what we're doing and it's working. But just to know that there's this method behind it and that you can actually train people on how to use that method is very powerful and impactful for people. So, well, Kaylin, I appreciate you being on the show. I know you couldn't see me. There was a little glitch, but I could see you perfectly. And everyone who's watching is going to be able to see you perfectly because I'm recording on my side. This has been very, very, educational for me. And where can people find you if they're interested in having you speak at their conference, if they're interested to have you work with their sales team, if they're a lawyer and they're trying to figure out how to get their onboarding and sales team to convert, where can people find you to get more information about you?
Yeah, I mean, so my name, if you just Google it, stuff comes up because there's only one Klyn. But yeah, I mean, really just go to www.misskLyn.com. And you'll enter an entire rabbit hole of information, but that's the go-to place.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on the show. I really loved it. Can't wait to put this out and have people connect with it. And we'll be talking soon. Take care.
Awesome. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Guts and Glory Show with Louise Scott. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to share. For more information on this episode, please see the show notes at www.gutsandgloryshow.com. And join us next time as we talk to another leader in business that had the guts to overcome all odds for the glory of success.